Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. It's Sunday, so it's Spirit Sundays. I do apologise there was no video on Tuesday, as I planned to release one. I did plan to release one, but Christmas period and all that. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. I did release my video on the Diplomaticus number 2 on Boxing Day. I had that on Christmas. It was a wonderful cigar. But we're here to do a Spirit review today, as promised. Last weekend, we reviewed the Jack Daniel's Bonded, and there was a special video on Monday, if you've not seen it, comparing the old number 7 to the Bonded. But we're back on Scotch today. A bottle of Scotch I bought for myself just before the Christmas period. It's a bottle of Scotch, very well known, very popular bottle of Scotch. One I've never tried before, though. So I thought I might as well buy the bottle, give it a try. It's pretty cheap, so I wasn't too worried. It does look like there's a crack in the cap now that I look at it, and I wonder how that's happened. The cat is here. There he is. Oh, I'm blocking him out. There's the cat. Say hello, Izzo. That's a better view, actually, as well. Yeah, there's a crack in the cap. Oh, no, that's that crack. Yeah, don't know how that's happened. I mean, it's fine. It's not going to affect the bottle too much. We are drinking Chivas Regal, or Chivas, I believe. Chivas Regal 12. This is a 12-year-old blended Scotch whisky from the Strathisla distillery. This is a very well-known bottle of whisky. Little bit about Chivas. The brand was founded in 1801. I believe Strathisla has been around since like the 1780s at some point. Strathisla makes a single malt that I've never had, I don't think. Unless I've had it in a pub once, a whiskey pub, I can't remember. Strathisla goes into this though. So they put Strathisla single malt along with other malts to make this blended Scotch. It is a blended Scotch, not a blended malt, so there's grain whiskey in here. Are they owned by Diageo? It doesn't look like it, which is good. Blended and bottled by the Chivas brothers. Pernod Ricard. I knew a big company owned it. Pernod Ricard owns Chivas. I assume they also own Strathisla. But, yeah, Pernod Ricard. Who make Pernod and own loads of brands. Do Pernod Ricard own like Martell and stuff as well? I think they do. So this is a blended Scotch. I'm normally a single malt guy. I like a single malt. I generally prefer single malt to blends. I don't hate blends. And I think blended whiskey has a really bad reputation, generally. Quick lesson on what is the difference between a blend and a single malt. So a single malt is malt whiskey. So it has to be made from malted barley. From one distillery. So it's the single, one distillery, malt, blended malt. Blended Scotch is a blend from different distilleries. So they take whiskey from different distilleries. And it has malt and grain. Could potentially have other, but normally malt and grain whiskey in there. You can get blended malt whiskey, which generally is kind of a higher tier of blended Scotch, if you find it, because they are blending only malts to make the whiskey. Johnny Walker 15 is probably the most famous blended malt. A lot of people say Johnny Walker 15 has changed. I've not had a bottle in about 6 years. I do want to pick up a bottle at some point because it was one of my favourite whiskies. I did really enjoy Johnny Walker 15. This is not. So this has different whiskies from different distilleries, and it has grain and malt whiskey in here. Grain whiskey is generally, not always, but most of the time, grain whiskey is lower quality, thinner whiskey with less flavouring. Now, the interesting thing about Chivas is I think all of their products are blends. This is they're all, I think most of them are aged. I think they have a couple of interesting cask varieties as well. But This is their base offering, and it's a 12-year-old blend. Now, the age statement on a bottle of Scotch, this is a legal thing, so blended as well. So on the label of a bottle of Scotch, where it says there, blended Scotch whiskey. That's a legal thing. If it wasn't a blended Scotch, if it had other stuff that wasn't from Scotland in it, it couldn't be called blended Scotch. It'd just be called blended whiskey. And then the age statement here is a legal thing as well. The legal requirement is that the youngest cask that goes into this bottle has to be 12 years old, which means it won't all be 12 years old. There'll probably be some slightly older whiskey in it. I don't imagine a lot, given how widespread this bottle is. It doesn't have a cork. So you can, I mean, nothing wrong with not having a cork. There's quite a lot of really good whiskey that doesn't have a cork. But this doesn't. As you can see, I've drank a little bit of this bottle. I've had a couple of glasses over Christmas and stuff. And I think it's alright. It's a slightly more upmarket bottle. More expensive than Johnny Walker and such. You're looking at, generally, I paid £23 for this. That was with my discount from work. I think it was 25 on the offer. You normally can get it around 25-ish pounds. I think on the off offer it's about 30. I am certain, it doesn't say anywhere, I'm certain it's chill filtered, and I'm certain it's coloured. And I say that, to be fair. They could not add colour into it, but I'd imagine they do for consistency's sake. Let's get our nose in the glass. Let's stop yapping. Let's get our nose in the glass, and let me give you some nose. And I really like the nose on this whiskey. It's Speyside, by the way. It's a Speyside blend. It's sweet, apple, honey, slightly floral. Yeah, apple, honey. I even get a little bit of peach in there. It's very sweet, fruity, heather, a little bit of kind of biscuity malt, but not a lot. And it smells lovely. The palate on this, the nose on this smells really nice. A really nice, lovely, lovely smelling whiskey. Really nice and sweet. And then we go to the palate. We'll take a sip. And it's a little bit disappointing compared to the nose. It's a bit thin. It's like there's this massive explosion on the nose that's honestly quite rich with all that fruit. It's all quite fresh and zingy and sweet. So you don't imagine it's going to be heavy on the palate. But it's kind of slightly thin in terms of the flavour that's actually coming through. Slightly metallic, sharp. When people say a whiskey tastes metallic, what they mean a lot of the time is that it's got kind of a sharp, spiky, like slightly tinny, metally note, which you get on a lot of young spirit. Which is weird because you think it's 12 years old, this isn't a young spirit. The problem is that grain whiskey. That grain whiskey can be aged for 12 years, and that grain whiskey probably makes up a majority of this bottle. And so that grain gives you a really big, sharp, metallic note, which isn't necessarily super unpleasant, but what it means is that all those lovely honey and fruit notes don't come through on the palate. Instead, you get kind of the maltiness from the malt that exists, that kind of almost dusty, biscuity malt flavour. And then you get honey. I think honey is something you get on this, and you get a little bit of apple. My problem with this Scotch is that metallic note. It's really present, and I think unfortunately it's something that is slightly off-putting about whiskey for new people. If you're introducing a Scotch to someone, if you're trying to get someone into Scotch, a whiskey like this isn't going to be a good entry point because, yes, it's got a beautiful nose, a really nice nose. The nose on this is like an 8 out of 10. The palate is like a 5 maybe. It's not offensive. There's no off flavours, but there is that kind of sharp metallic note, which isn't. It's not nice, especially if you're not used to drinking whiskey, because it comes through as spiky and as burny, even though it's only 40%, which is low in terms of what we can get to with whiskey. For me, this is a Scotch that I'm going to be using to mix with broadly. You know, if I wanted a Scotch and soda, or a cocktail that asks for Scotch, potentially like a Scotch old fashioned. This could actually be quite nice in, because I think I think ice would actually be quite nice with this, because it would kind of get rid of the metallic note. There's quite a few things I could do with this bottle, but in terms of just something to sit down and sip on, there are better blends to do that, and better blends around that range as well. I think Johnny Walker Black is a better blend than it's a better 12-year-old blend in terms of sipping. Johnny Walker Black isn't amazing. It's not one of the best whiskies in the world, and I will review it at some point, I'm sure, because you buy Johnny Walker Black. People buy Johnny Walker Black. It's not something I buy often, but I'll probably pick up a bottle at some point, and it's a perfectly fine whiskey to sip. With that said, it has that note that I'm not a fan of. Some people might like it. Me, it's okay. Like, I can sip it, but I'm not going to choose to pour big glasses of this to sip over something like that Jack Daniel's Bonded. Obviously, it's on offer. It's around the same price as a bottle of Chivas. But I mean, a good example is that Glenmarnock. That Glenmarnock from Aldi, that's a single malt, no age statement, single malt. That is, in my opinion, a much better whiskey to sip than the Chivas. Now, I actually believe that the Chivas, that this bottle was probably better, much better, as a drink maybe 20 years ago. Probably. Because I think about 20-25 years ago, they would have made this to appeal to the Scotch drinker who sips. This is now made to appeal to cocktails and appeal to your mixers who want a slightly fancier bottle of Scotch to mix that isn't Johnny Walker Red, because it does price close to Johnny Walker Red. I think it's better than Johnny Walker Red. And as a bottle maybe to decant as well, you could put this into a decanter, offer it to people who come round. In terms of just sipping this, I'll finish this glass. It's not horrible to drink, but I just don't think it's a whiskey that I'm going to be I probably won't buy another bottle of this. I've bought a bottle. I'll drink through what I have, and I won't buy another one. It's not horrible, but I do think it's just painfully average, and I think it has to get a 5 out of 10 would be my score for it, because it's not amazing. Really nice nose, but palate lets it down a lot. I think 5 out of 10 is fair. And yeah, can't say much more about it. 5 out of 10 for the Chivas Regal 12. But with that, I hope everyone has a good New Year. This video is going out on Sunday. It's the 29th. I'm working tomorrow, it's Monday, and it's New Year's Eve. And it's unlikely there'll be a video on New Year's Eve. I don't think so. There might be. Who knows? There might be a video on New Year's Eve. I might make something. If there isn't a video on New Year's Eve, I will, which is unlikely, I'll try and release one on Wednesday. On New Year's Day. Nursing a hangover, no doubt. But I hope everyone has a good New Year's. I hope everyone has a good drink. And I hope everyone has a good smoke. I'm going to have a cigar right now. So as always, stay smoky, everyone. And Happy New Year's. Cheers.